My name is Brooke Morrison. I'm 18 years old, and I thought family meant wanting what's best for each other until my stepfather looked me in the eye and said, Brooke, sometimes dreams need to be realistic. What happened next proved that while I was grieving the loss of my college dreams and accepting a gap year I never wanted, my stepfather was hiding acceptance letters and scholarship offers that would have changed my entire future. Before I tell you how one missed call from an admissions counselor unraveled a web of lies so calculated it took my breath away, and how email recovery software exposed a man so controlling he was willing to destroy my education to keep me as free childcare, I'd love to know where you're watching from. Please hit that like button and subscribe if you want to hear how 4 words, full scholarship student missing, made my stepfather realize he had been caught sabotaging the academic career of a future valedictorian. Let me take you back to where this story really begins. My biological father died in a car accident when I was 8 years old, leaving my mother Sarah to raise me alone. She did an incredible job for 4 years, working 2 jobs to keep us stable while supporting my academic ambitions and encouraging my dreams of becoming a doctor. When I was 12, my mother met Robert Martinez at her job as a medical receptionist. Robert was 38, worked as a warehouse supervisor, and seemed kind and supportive during their dating phase. He appeared to genuinely care about both my mother and me, often praising my good grades and talking about how proud he was to have such a smart stepdaughter. Brooke's going to be the first doctor in our family, Robert would tell his friends and co-workers. She's brilliant. Straight A's since kindergarten. Robert and my mother married when I was 14, and for the first year, everything seemed perfect. He moved into our house, helped with bills, and gave my mother the financial stability she had been struggling to maintain as a single parent. But gradually, Robert's attitude toward my academic achievements began to change. It started with small comments during my sophomore year of high school. Maybe Brooke should consider community college instead of those expensive universities, he would say during dinner conversations. A 2-year degree is more practical, and she could live at home to save money. My mother would always defend my college plans. Robert, Brooke has the grades for anywhere she wants to go. We've been saving for her education since she was little. I'm just saying college is overrated, Robert would reply, especially for girls. She'll probably just get married and have kids anyway. The comments became more frequent and more pointed as I entered my junior year and began seriously researching colleges and career paths. Pre-med is incredibly competitive, Robert would say whenever I mentioned my goal of becoming a pediatrician. Maybe Brooke should think about something more realistic, like nursing or teaching. What I didn't understand at the time was that Robert's discouragement wasn't about practicality or finances. It was about control. You see, Robert and my mother had 2 young children together, my half-brother Jake, who was 3, and my half-sister Emma, who was 18 months old. As the oldest child and the only one old enough to help with childcare, I had gradually become an essential part of Robert's household management system. I picked up Jake from preschool every day after school, watched both kids while my mother worked late shifts, helped with bath time and bedtime routines, and often took care of the children on weekends when Robert and my mother wanted to go out together. Brooke is such a natural with kids, Robert would tell family friends. She's like a built-in babysitter. The childcare responsibilities hadn't bothered me much during my underclassmen years. I loved my little siblings, and helping out felt like normal family cooperation. But as my senior year approached and college applications became a reality, I began to realize how much Robert depended on my free labor. Who's going to watch Jake and Emma when you're at college? Robert asked me one evening in November of my senior year. Your mother can't handle 2 toddlers alone while working full-time. That's what daycare is for, I replied. Other families manage it. Daycare costs $300 a week per kid, Robert said. That's $600 a week, $400 a month. We can't afford that when you're perfectly capable of helping out at home. The message was becoming clear. Robert expected me to sacrifice my college plans to provide free childcare for his children. Robert, we've been planning for Brooke's college education for years, my mother said firmly. She's worked too hard to give up now. I'm not saying she should give up, Robert replied. I'm saying she should be practical. Community college for 2 years, then maybe transfer to a local state school. She can live at home and help with the family. But I had bigger dreams than staying local. I had spent 4 years maintaining a 4.2 GPA, participating in student government, volunteering at the Children's Hospital, and building the kind of resume that would get me into top pre-med programs. I had already been accepted to 3 excellent universities with strong science programs, and I was waiting to hear back from my dream school, Johns Hopkins University, which had one of the best pre-med programs in the country. The Johns Hopkins application had been the most challenging thing I had ever completed. I spent months on my personal statement, got recommendation letters from 3 teachers, and submitted test scores that represented years of hard work and preparation. If I get into Johns Hopkins, I'm going, I told Robert and my mother during a family dinner in February. It's been my goal since sophomore year. Robert's expression darkened. And how exactly are you planning to pay for that? Johns Hopkins costs $60,000 a year. I applied for every scholarship available, I said, plus financial aid and student loans if necessary. I'll make it work. Student loans will ruin your life, Robert said. You'll graduate with $200,000 in debt and spend the next 20 years paying it off. Meanwhile, your family needs you here. My mother looked uncomfortable. Robert, let's see what her options are before we make any decisions. Brooke has worked too hard to dismiss her opportunities. But Robert's opposition to my college plans was becoming more aggressive every week. By March, when college decision letters were supposed to start arriving, Robert had begun intercepting the mail every day, claiming he was helping organize important documents. I'll bring in all the college letters and we can review them together as a family, he said. College decisions are too important for an 18-year-old to handle alone. This should have been a red flag, but I trusted Robert and assumed he was just being protective. As March turned into April, I began to worry. I had been accepted to my safety schools, but I hadn't heard anything from my top choices, including Johns Hopkins. Maybe it's a bad sign that I haven't heard from Hopkins yet, I told my mother. Other kids in my class have already gotten their decision letters. College admissions are unpredictable, Robert said quickly. Don't get your hopes up too high. By mid-April, I was genuinely confused. I had applied to 8 schools and had only heard back from 3, all acceptances, but none of my top choices. I should have heard from all of them by now, I told my guidance counselor, Mrs. Patterson. Decision letters were supposed to be mailed by April 1st. Mrs. Patterson looked concerned. That is unusual, Brooke. Let me make some calls to admissions offices and see if there's been a mailing problem. That afternoon, Mrs. Patterson called me into her office with a puzzled expression. Brooke, I spoke with Johns Hopkins admissions, and they said they sent your decision letter 3 weeks ago, she said. They also mentioned that someone called from your household to confirm your mailing address. My heart started racing. Someone called from my house? Who? They didn't specify, but they said a family member wanted to verify that all correspondence should be sent to your home address rather than the school. I felt a chill run down my spine. I had never asked anyone to call Johns Hopkins, and I couldn't think of any reason why someone would need to verify my address. Mrs. Patterson, can you ask them to email me my decision letter directly? I asked. I think there might be a problem with our mail delivery. Of course, she said. I'll call them right now. 10 minutes later, Mrs. Patterson's phone rang. She answered it, listened for a few moments, then looked at me with an expression of shock and excitement. Brooke, she said slowly, you were accepted to Johns Hopkins University with a full merit scholarship. I felt like the world had stopped spinning. What? I whispered. A full scholarship, Brooke. Full tuition, room and board for 4 years. They said you were one of only 12 students nationwide to receive this award. I should have been ecstatic, but instead, I felt sick to my stomach. Mrs. Patterson, if they sent the letter 3 weeks ago, where is it? We both knew the answer, but neither of us wanted to say it out loud. Brooke, let me call the other schools you applied to, Mrs. Patterson said gently. Over the next hour, she made 6 phone calls. The results were devastating and infuriating. I had been accepted to every single school I applied to. Not only that, but I had received significant scholarship offers from 5 of them, including a partial scholarship to Northwestern University and a merit scholarship to the University of Chicago. Every single decision letter had been mailed to my home address between mid-March and early April. None of them had ever made it to my room. I went home that afternoon with a sick feeling in my stomach and a determination to get answers. "Robert," I said, finding him in the living room watching TV while Jake napped. "I need to ask you something important." "What's up, Brooke?" he said, not looking away from the screen. "Did you happen to see any college letters for me in the mail recently? My guidance counselor said several schools sent decision letters weeks ago." Robert's posture stiffened slightly, but his voice remained casual. "No, I haven't seen any college letters. Maybe they got lost in the mail?" I studied his face carefully. "Mrs. Patterson said someone from our house called Johns Hopkins to verify my mailing address. Do you know anything about that?" Now Robert turned to look at me directly, and I could see something calculating in his expression. "Brooke, I think we need to have a realistic conversation about your college plans," he said, completely avoiding my question. "Robert, did you take my college letters?" "I think you're getting worked up over nothing," he said. "Maybe it's a sign that you should focus on more practical options." The non-answer was as good as a confession. That night, I waited until Robert and my mother went to bed. Then I systematically searched every room in the house where Robert might have hidden mail. I found them in a file folder in the back of Robert's bedroom closet, under a stack of financial documents. 8 unopened letters from 8 different universities. With shaking hands, I opened each one. Johns Hopkins, accepted with full scholarship. Northwestern, accepted with 25-0 annual merit scholarship. University of Chicago, accepted with 20-0 annual merit scholarship. University of Michigan, accepted with in-state tuition waiver. Boston University, accepted with 15-0 annual scholarship. University of Washington, accepted with honors program admission. UCLA, accepted with partial scholarship. UC Berkeley, accepted. Every single school had accepted me. The total value of scholarships I had been offered was over 400-0. Robert had hidden all of it, but the worst part was yet to come. At the bottom of the file folder, I found printed emails that made my blood run cold. Robert had been corresponding with Johns Hopkins Financial Aid Office using my email account, which he had apparently accessed by guessing my password. In the emails, I had requested that my scholarship offer be rescinded because I had decided not to attend college. "I have decided to stay home and help with my family instead of pursuing higher education," the email read. "Please give my scholarship to another deserving student." Robert had not only hidden my acceptance letters, he had actively tried to sabotage my financial aid offers. I took pictures of everything with my phone, carefully returned the letters to the folder exactly as I had found them, and went back to my room to plan my next move. The next morning, I called Johns Hopkins admissions directly from school. "This is Brooke Morrison," I told the admissions counselor. "I received information yesterday that I was accepted with a merit scholarship. But I want to confirm that my scholarship is still valid." "Let me check your file," the counselor said. "Oh yes, Miss Morrison. You were selected for our Presidential Scholars Program with full tuition and room and board for 4 years. However, we did receive an email from you requesting that we rescind the offer." "I never sent that email," I said firmly. "Someone else accessed my account without permission. I absolutely want to accept the scholarship and attend Johns Hopkins." There was a pause. "Miss Morrison, this is a very serious situation. Are you saying someone committed fraud using your identity?" "Yes," I said, "and I have proof." "We need to document this immediately," the counselor said. "Can you come in for an interview this week? We may need to involve campus security and potentially law enforcement if someone has been impersonating you." That afternoon, I drove to Johns Hopkins with copies of all the hidden letters and screenshots of the fraudulent emails. The meeting with admissions was both validating and terrifying. They confirmed that someone had accessed my email account and sent multiple messages attempting to decline admission and scholarships at several universities. "This is identity theft and wire fraud," the admissions director told me. "The person who did this could face federal charges." They reinstated my scholarship on the spot and gave me an additional 2 weeks past the normal deadline to submit my enrollment deposit. That evening, I confronted Robert with everything I had discovered. "I found my college letters in your closet," I said, placing printouts of the fraudulent emails on the kitchen table in front of him. "And I know you've been using my email account to decline scholarships." Robert looked at the papers, then looked at me with an expression that was part anger and part panic. "Brooke, I did this for your own good," he said. "College is going to ruin your life. You'll go away, get filled with liberal ideas, and forget about your family responsibilities." "My family responsibilities?" I said incredulously. "You mean babysitting your children for free?" "Those children are your brother and sister," Robert said, his voice rising. "Family takes care of family. Family doesn't commit fraud to control each other's lives," I shot back. My mother walked into the kitchen at that moment and saw the papers spread across the table. "What's going on?" she asked. I explained everything: the hidden letters, the stolen emails, the attempted sabotage of my scholarship offers. My mother's face went through a series of expressions: confusion, disbelief, and finally, fury. "Robert," she said in a voice I had never heard before, "please tell me Brooke is wrong about this." Robert's silence was answer enough. "You deliberately sabotaged our daughter's education?" my mother continued, her voice getting louder. "You committed fraud to keep her from going to college?" "Sarah, she needs to be realistic," Robert said desperately. "We need her here. Who's going to watch Jake and Emma? Who's going to help you with everything? We're going to figure it out like every other family does," my mother said coldly. "We're going to pay for childcare and manage our own responsibilities instead of stealing our daughter's future." The argument that followed was the worst fight I had ever witnessed. Robert tried to justify his actions by claiming he was protecting me from debt and poor decisions. My mother pointed out that he had made those decisions for me without my knowledge or consent. "You stole her mail, Robert," my mother said. "You accessed her private email account. You impersonated her to universities. This isn't protection. This is criminal behavior." In the end, my mother gave Robert an ultimatum: get counseling for his controlling behavior, or she would file for divorce and report the fraud to police. Robert chose to move out that weekend rather than face the consequences of his actions. 3 months later, I started my freshman year at Johns Hopkins University on a full scholarship worth $240,000 over 4 years. My mother enrolled Jake and Emma in daycare, adjusted her work schedule, and managed just fine without my free labor. In fact, she later told me that she felt guilty for not realizing sooner how much Robert had been depending on me to handle responsibilities that should have been his. "I should have protected you from being treated like a live-in nanny," she said during one of our phone calls. "You deserve to focus on your education without worrying about childcare." Robert, meanwhile, struggled to manage his children during his custody weekends and quickly realized how much work parenting actually requires when you can't delegate it to a teenager. He attempted to reconcile with my mother several times, promising to support my college plans and respect my independence. But the trust was permanently broken. My mother divorced him the following year. As for me, I thrived at Johns Hopkins. I made Dean's List every semester, conducted research in pediatric medicine, and was accepted to medical school at Harvard University with another merit scholarship. I'm now a third-year medical student specializing in pediatric oncology, and I'm on track to become the doctor I always dreamed of being. The most satisfying part of this story happened last year, when I ran into Robert at a coffee shop near my mother's house during a holiday visit. "Brooke," he said with forced enthusiasm, "how's college going?" "Actually, I'm in medical school now," I said calmly. "At Harvard, on a full scholarship." His face fell. "Medical school?" But I thought, "Didn't you have trouble affording college?" "No," I said. "I had a full scholarship to Johns Hopkins that you tried to steal from me." Fortunately, identity theft is a federal crime, so the universities were very helpful in straightening everything out. Robert looked genuinely shocked that his plan had failed so completely. "I only wanted what was best for you," he said weakly. "What was best for me was the education I earned through 4 years of hard work," I replied. "What you wanted was free childcare." I heard through my mother that Robert eventually remarried a woman with teenage children, presumably hoping to replace the free labor he lost when I went to college. But his new stepdaughters were apparently less willing to sacrifice their futures for his convenience. According to my mother, both girls moved out at 18 to attend college, leaving Robert to manage his own children without teenage help. Sometimes I wonder if Robert ever realized that trying to steal my college acceptance letters didn't keep me home. It just taught me exactly how far some people will go to control others. And sometimes, the person who tries to delete your dreams is actually giving you the motivation to prove that nobody can take away what you've earned. I graduated from Johns Hopkins magna cum laude, I'm excelling in medical school, and I'm building the exact career that Robert tried to prevent. But the best part of this whole story is that I did it all without sacrificing my family relationships. My mother and I are closer than ever, and Jake and Emma, now 7 and 5, think their big sister, the medical student, is the coolest person in the world. They tell everyone at school that their sister is going to be a doctor and save sick children. And unlike their father, they've never once suggested that I should give up my dreams to babysit them. Some families support each other's ambitions, others try to sabotage them for selfish reasons. But the beautiful thing about education is that once you've earned it, nobody can take it away from you, no matter how many letters they hide or emails they steal. Robert learned that lesson the hard way. And I learned that sometimes the person who tries to limit your future is actually showing you exactly how unlimited your potential really island.